was raised to believe in grace. But I was also raised to believe in retribution.
Alrighty, this is sort of my unscripted review of Daredevil Born Again, and man, I kind of miss the old days of like staying up for like 13 fucking hours and watching the entire show from start to finish on Netflix and having the whole product there. Nowadays on Disney Plus, I don't get that privilege because I gotta wait like week to week to see the rest of the show. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, fuck, man. I just want to binge watch this whole thing. But just to get into a basic sort of premise, setup, synopsis here, Daredevil Born Again was the product of trying to revive the Netflix show in a sense. They originally had it where it was going to be a creative reboot where they were going to recast Vanessa Fisk, they were going to have longer court cases, and it wasn't really working out with the pacing, and they also were going to take bigger swings, which we're going to talk about one of them later. They took one of them. This is going to be a spoiler-filled review, so watch out. Spoilers are coming, motherfucker. Anyway, they were gonna take bigger swings. They took one of them, not both of them, and it just was a show where it wasn't working out for Marvel standards for Daredevil. So they decided to sit down with Charlie Cox, the producers, get new producers, showrunners, introduce this whole TVMA premise. I also remember that as well. For the old Born Again, it was going to be TV-14, not TVMA. It would have made people freak the fuck out. But no. They went back and they went to the drawing board and they decided, hey, we're going to try to harken back to what worked originally. And that was that dark, gritty, punchy atmosphere of the Netflix show where it's like, this was a great superhero television show from start to finish. It was really good, memorable. The characters, it's one of the best adaptations of Daredevil I think we ever got. I know people might look back to the Ben Affleck movie, but no, it was nothing like Netflix's Daredevil, where it's like it's just a perfect rendition of the characters, the story, the lore, having the whole corruption on New York. It really felt surreal to see a good adaptation of Daredevil for once. And now Born Again seeks to emulate that same premise. We open up the show with a big bombshell, right? So it's 7 years back into the characters' footsteps. It's like Nelson, Page, and Murdoch. They're walking in the street conversing, and you see the camaraderie between all three of them, Karen Page, Foggy Nelson, and Matt Murdock. And it's just a really wholesome situation, setting it up too good to be true. The last page we left off for Daredevil season 3 was Matt Murdock, Foggy Nelson, and Karen Page all in a complete unison after the events of what happened in the show. So you get more of that, and I told myself, for like a dark sort of noir theme, this is too good to be true. I don't believe this facade at all. I know some bullshit is gonna happen, and there was rumors in the comment section of people saying Foggy Nelson is the one that's gonna die. He's gonna die, that's gonna be the inciting incident, and boom, a fucking hollow point strikes his chest. He falls to the ground. He has like this breathing that just constantly sounds like horrific, and Matt Murdock hears it, and it's like one of the things that Charlie Cox recommended is that the show, you constantly hear his fading heartbeat, and it was so fucking surreal and crazy. It's like, oh, what the fuck, they killed Foggy, and that's what they wanted you to have, and it's a moment that is etched in my mind forever. It's actually kind of one of my positives of the show, that they had balls to do something that was very risky, and in order to make the story and have the inverse effect of Matt Murdock not being Daredevil again, you kind of have to kill off someone super important to him. And I know Foggy meant a lot in this show, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but once that fight occurs with him and Bullseye, then he supposedly kills Bullseye, but not really, because Bullseye's like still alive after that adamantium surgery he had implanted in his spine in season 3. We move on a year later where Matt Murdock is kind of just disillusioned with the world, and he's still grieving with his friends, the remaining friends, you know, Karen Page. She's kind of estranged from Matt Murdock in the first episode, and then you see Wilson Fisk on the opposite side, and he's becoming mayor. He's rising to power. He supposedly cares about the New York people, but there's still the underbelly of Kingpin still in his system, and it's a great little dynamic between the two. I guess if I start with the positives, I love the whole inverse of what Kingpin is doing, what Daredevil is doing, where he's like kind of taking his I'm leaving Spider-Man behind quota approach, where he's leaving the persona behind because of this inciting incident, and he's like, I'm not Daredevil anymore. If you look at season 3, he's basically like somewhat of he's doing like sort of a reverse, where he's like, I don't want to be Matt Murdock anymore. I want to live my life within the ultimate sin. I want to be Daredevil. I want to take all this responsibility on my shoulders and protect the city. Matt Murdock is irrelevant, and we've seen this complex where it seemed like he wanted to give in to being unalived, because it was one point where Matt Murdock wanted a criminal to put a trigger to his head and pull it, because he felt like he wanted to die in that exact moment. This felt like a dark Daredevil that had nothing to live for, where it's like, this is the reverse effect, where this didn't save my friend at all. I wasn't fast enough to save Foggy. I wasn't there on time. I don't want to be Daredevil anymore. It doesn't help having this caged animal within me, and it has consequences for having friends as Matt Murdock as well. Again, dualities always have some consequence here or there. If it's not just you, it's the people around you that will be affected. With Kingpin, it's interesting. He was just, you know, known as this criminal in the dark. Like, no one really knew who he was, and if you did know who he was, you knew that he would go after your family, your friends, your loved ones, your children, just to protect himself. A lot of inner conflict. Even one character in the show says that Fisk is somewhat of a little kid. He seems like an adult, but he seems like just a giant child trying to put on this facade of being good. And now he's positioned to be the mayor of New York, the big mayor of New York, who wants to outlaw vigilantes and have them not participate in all this stuff with crime and everything, get rid of them. He's the one that is putting a power play against these people, and he's on the other side of the fence, and I find these dynamics to be very cool for the characters, very interesting for the characters. They were very comic accurate in some aspects of the character. I do remember Fisk running for mayor in the comics as well, and I thought that was pretty cool. They adapted that, and Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox, they make this work so well. The acting is still on point, very good, very crisp, very clean. If you ask me, is there anyone else that could play Daredevil and Kingpin, Wilson Fisk? I would say let it be these two for years. It doesn't have to be anyone else. They embody the characters I love so fucking much, and I wouldn't want them replaced for the world, which is why it's kind of wild to me that they decided to try to attempt a creative reboot and get rid of characters that people loved and enjoyed. The story itself is still pretty good. It's still on that Netflix caliber, where you have these interpersonal relationships and you have a little bit less of the action, I would say. So if you're looking forward to Daredevil just going around and careening people's heads in, you're not gonna get that a lot with these two episodes. You get like a scene at the end of episode 2 where Daredevil's like fighting these corrupt cops or whatever. He's not even Daredevil, he's like Matt Murdock at this rate, and these corrupt cops like shake him down and he starts beating the shit out of them, and it's kind of fantastic. It's a short little fight, but You don't get a lot of Daredevil action in this show. Instead, what you get is a very slow burn character study reminiscent to the Netflix show, building up to something and having a very pertinent plot element that stays and sticks this time around. And I really like that. I really appreciated that they're doing this. Some people say it's a negative to have like slow paced character studies and setting up the world and the new characters and everything, but I firmly believe if it leads to somewhere and it makes sense, then I'm all for it. One of the plot elements to me that made sense is the fact that Matt Murdock is not the vigilante anymore, so someone else has to come in and take his place, and now you get the storyline with White Tiger. Unfortunately though, his actor passed away, but this guy gives a really good performance, very convincing. He's in the middle of a situation where two cops, they basically fight him. They're trying to shake someone down. He tries to protect them. He doesn't know they're undercover cops. He gets involved. One of them dies by an accident, which is kind of funny. Pratt falls onto the subway tracks on the other person's body and he gets hit by the train. And you have this reminiscent moment of where this guy seems like a reflection of Daredevil himself, trying to do the right thing, and he's caught up in a situation that actually gets arrested. So now Matt is trying to represent him, be his lawyer, help him out, and help the other guy out that is supposedly the eyewitness. And that is the majority of episode 2, whereas episode 1 is setting up these characters, the exciting incident of Foggy dying and perishing, and how Matt Murdock is dealing with that after effect, how the world has changed, how Fist's relationship with Vanessa is not the same anymore, because now like Vanessa is cheating on Fist, and it's very estranged in that regard. So you have parallels and similes with Matt Murdock being estranged from Karen Page. And also we know that another similarity is the fact that they both are walking and ticking time bombs. Matt Murdock's case is where he has to save himself at the end of episode 2 from the cops, the corrupt cops, and he just explodes on them, beats them up, and he doesn't want to let the devil out, but he does. Fist, on the other hand, it's like he's trying to be the people that New York needs, but a lot of interpersonal shit is going to get to him, especially this whole cheating situation with Vanessa and Adam, and I think he's going to explode on this guy, put this guy's head in the middle of a car door and just slam it into pieces until he's decapitated. So these monsters living within these two characters, they're going to come at a crossroads, and we're starting to see that as a simile, and I really love that so fucking much. And I think that's what I'm going to be tuning in and watching every singular week. One of the things I want to commend the show on is, while it does feel different, it feels like you never left the world, you never left the characters, you never left their lives. The emotional complexity and the morality, it feels like it always was there. As you switch over from Netflix to Born Again, it's still there. The gritty maturity, the subject matter, the characters that are talking and explaining themselves, and also as a situation will escalate, it feels like they carried that over really good. Now the new characters, I feel like they're going to be ups and downs with these new characters in terms of liking them. Of course, since Foggy no longer exists, that means like one half of Matt Murdock is now gone, so it has to rely on the other remaining characters to really push it. And as for what I think so far, Detective Cherry, or ex-detective, he's okay. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Commissioner Gordon, just not as, I want to say, enthusiastic about everything. He's sort of Matt's sidekick, getting him intel and stuff like that. Maybe they could have put a little bit more of a backstory onto Detective Cherry. Daniel Blake is a fucking Wilson Fisk glazer. Like, I'm so tired of this guy. He's annoying. It's like a discredit to Michael Gandolfini. I just am so annoyed by this character. Each time he talks, each time he fucking sucks Kingpin's dick. It's just really fucking annoying. I don't like this character at all. Heather is gonna be another pin to Matt Murdock's belt when he fucks her. It's like she doesn't have anything interesting going for her. I feel like they put her in this show to basically get killed by Bullseye, and that's not Elektra, so it's got to be this random woman that seems interested into Matt's junk. And then there's like BB Urich. I feel like she has something really going on, considering the fact that she doesn't know that her father Ben Urich was basically killed by Wilson Fisk. So I would imagine this journalist who is BB Urich, she is the daughter of Ben Urich. She's going to try to expose and get information as to what happened and find out that Kingpin really did kill her father. I think she's going to find that out. And then I think the last new character is Kirsten McDuffie. Hopefully I said that right, but Kirsten McDuffie seems to be the exuberant new character at Nelson and Murdock and Paige. Now Murdock and McDuffie, so they teamed up, and I guess she's gonna be like sort of the off-the-cuff friend of Matt Murdock that sticks around a little bit and then leaves. She really doesn't feel like she has anything pertinent going on, at least in these 2 episodes. I do not mind her whatsoever, but I do feel like she's not really super pertinent or important to anything outside of pulling a few strings here or there between the characters. Nothing like a Karen Page or a Foggy. The one character I do like so far, like I said, is White Tiger. I do like his character, the whole sympathy angle, doing vigilantism even in the presence of Fisk wanting to get rid of it. There needs to be someone protecting the city, and Matt Murdock currently is not doing it. I do like his storyline and how he's sort of set up to be in jail, and these cops are wearing like Punisher tattoos on their forearms and necks, and we know that's going to be incorporated into the story somehow with Frank's opinion, considering he's in the show. And the Punisher, he does not like people glorifying him whatsoever and looking up to him, because he felt like his family was failed by the system, and now these fucking stupid ass cops, and once again it is indicative to real life matters, these stupid cops are wearing skulls, believing they are embracing the law and doing some justice to the law, and the Punisher is just like, what the fuck, why are people wearing my branding? I do not like cops, therefore why are people doing this? Like, you know, fuck this. Why are people imitating me? I do not like when people do that whatsoever. So I can't wait until that's explored a lot more in the story, and what they're setting up is really nice, really. As for everything else that I like, and I like quite a bit actually, I do like Matt's new represented sonar sense, where it's like he hears in the environment everything goes deaf, and then he hears a specific phone call or someone's steps, or he hears someone coming, or he hears a specific conversation or a heartbeat. Again, it was emotionally resonant when you were hearing Foggy's like dying breath and Karen saying it's gonna be okay, when he has like a hole the size in his chest, the size of the Rio Grande, right? And it's just heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking stuff. But this new sense was really conveyed well, and hopefully we see more of it going into other episodes. I also liked Matt Murdock just swinging around as Daredevil. Like, we didn't get to see a lot of him just swinging around with the Billy Club and all that other stuff. There was a few moments of it in the Netflix show, but it looks a little bit more cooler here, maybe with a bigger budget. But there are some scenes where yeah, when he flies in the first time and you see him with the CGI, we're gonna talk about the CGI, believe me, that is something that is a negative of mine. It looked kind of weird of him kicking the wall and landing and having the superhero landing, and he rises up and it looks a little bit fake. But again, we'll talk about that later. But I do like the swinging aspects and the bigger budget somewhat. As for everything else, I do want to see more just going back and connecting to the MCU, having that MCU street level story. Again, it's fantastic. I love this stuff very much, to sort of have this interpersonal crime drama and have all these other things going on within Daredevil's life is pretty cool. And them connecting the tissue. I mean, there was one reference where I believe they were talking about the amulet for White Tiger, and the other guy's like rolling his fucking eyes saying, oh my god, here we go, we gotta deal with this shit again with the superheroes and the vigilantism. It's like, I've dealt with this before, I'm tired of hearing about it. But there are people that live like that in that world, and it makes it gritty and authentic to the cause. Just that, I think they referenced Spider-Man, Echo. It was very pleasant to hear all this stuff with the MCU, and it really puts the U in universe, and it makes it pretty cool in my opinion. As for what I'm mixed about, you guys will be surprised by this. I am kind of mixed about the whole premise of going estranged with Karen and Matt, and I understand what the directors and the developers are saying, where it's like when you have family tragedy, sometimes family can split up, but she's being so unnecessarily bitter to Matt Murdock. I just don't like it. For some reason, I just don't like this premise at all, and I can understand a character being bitter to another character. There are times where I have accepted it. There are times where I have saw the vision, like in Last of Us Part 2, where some characters are bitter to others because of time and progression and how people change. I understand people change, which is why I'm mixed on it. I don't really hate it. I get where it's coming from, but I hope this is just going to develop into something that is a bit more satisfactory in terms of resolution with Karen and Matt, because right now I just don't like that they're on the outs, but I can understand where it's coming from. And let's get to the negative of episode 1 and 2. So again, while I'm giving high praise, while I definitely enjoyed it, I feel like there are moments where this show looks like really cool. It looked really cool looking, and they had a lot of artistic visual shots between episode 1, especially when you see Kingpin and Matt Murdock looking at each other, like when they're doing a fucking WWE stare down contest, right? And you see the red flickering off of Matt, and then you see the white spotlight on Kingpin. Oh my god, it's so symbolic. And then you get to episode 2, where it's like the visuals are a little bit gray, and some things are not really portrayed well in some of the realistic fight scenes with Matt Murdock and the cops, where it's like this guy's head hit the table and they jump cut like 4 times. And you remember, even in a fight where you can clearly tell it's not the actor and the other actor fighting each other, like in Daredevil season 1, where Matt Murdock is fighting Stick and you don't see his face is covered in shadow, it still was a pretty damn good fight for hiding one of the older actors, which will Stick. And for some reason, in some of these fight scenes, they're either jump cut to hell, or they just didn't impress me, or they did something weird where it's like when Bullseye in the beginning of episode 1 throws a smoke bomb or whatever, a smoke grenade, I believe, into the establishment, and you can tell it's like really bad looking for some reason. I don't know what was going on there. You barely can see anything, and it seems like there is some CGI imposed on top of it, and it just looks kind of weird. It's not the worst CGI I ever seen, but by the time that Bullseye like gets to the rooftop, I'm just like, he looks like a PS2 character. There's no way in hell you can't tell me he doesn't look like a PS2 character. And they could have did something really cool here. I think they could have focused more of the fight in the hallway as those two are fighting. And I know that's like Daredevil's domain. It's like, I'm here to beat your ass in this hallway, but still they could have had that fight in the hallway extended, as opposed to having these two CGI men at the beginning of the bar fight each other, and it looks kind of fake and stiff. And again, Daredevil's fights, they always had that sort of really great gravitas of darkness, and also at the same time like high octane martial arts. Even for what they did, they have a bigger budget this time. It's no excuse. Like the Netflix show was like, I think 1 million, and this one is like 7. You have all the stunt coordinators in the world. Like, why can't we do a fight sequence without all this weird CGI? So I'm hoping as the show progresses, we don't see a lot of that. We see them actually attempt a decent fight scene here or there, because for what I've seen, it doesn't really do it for me, unfortunately. I feel like they kind of dropped the ball on that a little bit. And I did enjoy Bullseye going around and like killing people, showing he's a fucking unhinged mess. I mean, considering that New York keeps reinstating and not reinstating the death penalty. They should have put his ass behind bars, fucking lethal injection, firing squad. I don't care what you have to do, because he killed like 11 people that night. Like, anyone feel like Bullseye kind of got off light just because the story demands him to be alive, and now all of a sudden he has to like survive and be in prison and break out? It's like it feels ridiculous at this rate. They should have definitely like fucking put him in another state and like fucking put a bunch of guns on him, hanged him. Like, at this point he killed 11 dudes. He was like stabbing people on the stairway, wondering what the fuck was going on, punching women. It was chaos, man. It was it was fucking chaos in that first episode. That's why I definitely like the stairwell stuff. It was really well done, but it was way too short. We need like a full fucking hallway fight, just like the older Daredevils, like a full-on ass fight, just people brawling, getting their ass kicked, thrown out of windows. Come on, man, we need that. But yeah, mostly I have great things to say about the show. I just hope that the fights get better. I will be tuning in on episode 3, giving a full breakdown of that, how I feel about the story, the characters, and their progression so far. I currently would get episode like 1 to 7.8. I feel like the pacing was very slow paced crawl, but it was a character study, so I do like that stuff. I just feel like the CGI was weird. I didn't mind the death of Foggy and all that other stuff involved in just setting up what Fist and Daredevil are doing on opposing ends. The best scene is the diner scene where they're just talking and they're discovering we have stuff in common, even though we tried to kill each other for years. So it's like, okay. And then Matt's like, if I see you step out of line, your ass is mine. And the Fist is like, oh, is this your darker half talking? It's just those moments that really saved that episode for me. And then I would say episode 2 is definitely an 8. They step up the action, they step up the stakes, they're implanting more storytelling. One of my favorite scenes in episode 2 is Kingpin himself like intimidating that police officer. So you still know he might be the mayor of New York, but he's a scary motherfucker. Even with that cheesesteak on the table, he's like, you know what, they have the best cheesesteaks in the world, let me show you where they're from. And then he picks up the wrapper, and then you see the police commissioner, who is about to not be aligned with Fist because he hates his guts. He sees his child and his wife, and there it is right there, those old tactics of Kingpin resonating back in, where it's like, I'll kill your family, I'll kill your child, I'll kill your wife, and guess what, I'll perfectly get away with it because I have all this power. And then he's telling like the police commissioner, I will give you 0 funding, I will give you 0 cadets, I won't give you shit. And then it's like, I was like, oh my god, dude, Vincent D'Onofrio just kills it every second. I'm just gonna give this man praise, his flowers where it's due. I really want to see this guy go up against Spider-Man. That shit is going to be peak fiction, undoubtedly, in Spider-Man 4 if it ever happens, but it probably won't. So that's just me. But yeah, good, strong start. I cannot wait to see what they have next. And honestly, tell me what you guys think of Daredevil Born Again episode 1 or 2. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you find more things that you did not like, or more things you actually enjoyed about the story and character moments along the way? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, take care of yourselves, be good people. I'll see you guys next time. Later. Also, PS, I might as well shove this at the end of the video, the tail end. What did you guys think of the new intro with the crumbling statue and everything just breaking apart, and just that visual of Nelson and Murdoch shattering as a sign? I think for symbolism, it's a really good new intro, a remix of the old Netflix Daredevil scene. I thought it was going to be the exact same, but it's not really. It's very different, and I do love it. It feels like a blueprint of continuing what is going on, building Matt Murdock Daredevil back up as a person, Whereas I feel like the original is just iconic, man. You'll never get over that music, you'll never get over that theme, you'll never get over the blood dripping off of New York, you'll never get over how it looks. So I feel like the new one is emotionally resonant to Matt Murdock's crumbling life, and the older one is just iconic. It builds up the blood work, the underbelly, the seedy, bloody underbelly of New York, and you just, both of them are really great in their own rights, I believe. One's more iconic, one's more symbolic. So that's what I think about both intros personally, between Netflix and the new Born Again statue intro respectively. Tell me what you guys think of that too in the comment section below.